Recently, married couples and younger couples are breaking up. That's according to an official survey, and the government is now stepping up efforts to ensure that couples are better prepared before tying the knot. Those heavily in debt to financial institutions will now have more time to bring it down to manageable levels. Tighter credit rules will be phased in over 4 years. And if you think culling isn't the way to handle Singapore's stray and wild animal population, well, you're not alone. A new survey reveals what the public thinks about animal protection, and results are said to be encouraging. Hello and thanks for joining me on Singapore Tonight. I'm John Leong. Fewer marriages are going the distance, with the number of couples who wed then split nearly doubling recently compared to before. This is according to a government survey on the stability of marriages. Just over 20% of those who wed in 1998 had split up within 15 years. That's against about 12% of those who wed in 1987. Younger couples were also less likely to stick together. For civil marriages, the divorce rate among 20 to 24-year-old grooms was twice that of older men. For Muslim marriages, the rate was 1.5 times, but the divorce rate among Muslims has been falling recently. 14% of those who wed in 2003 had divorced within 5 years, but the figure falls to just over 11% for those who wed in 2008. The Ministry of Social and Family Development says this is because of community initiatives that prepare and counsel Muslim couples for marriage. So it will roll out a new marriage preparation program next month. It's a 12-hour workshop covering topics like communication, conflict management, and commitment. Joining me tonight is Dr. Lee Kam Chuan. He's a psychologist and marriage counsellor who has practiced here and in the UK. Thanks for joining me, Dr. Lee.
Thanks for having me.
Dr. Lee, this trend of marriages breaking down is not limited to Singapore, but other developed countries too. Tell us why and what are the aggravating factors?
I think it's unfortunate from a global perspective. Around the world, marriages are breaking down, and we're seeing more and more of it. One of the main reasons is because people aren't actually afraid to announce it. Traditionally, it's quite hush-hush. It might have been happening, but people just sort of don't know about it, or they don't announce it on Facebook, for example. Whereas these days, it's quite public, and the approval among social environment is also quite common. So people are quite okay with it. So you see that it's being discussed widely.
Right. So now we've heard about that trend of younger couples not staying together for the long haul. Apart from a lack of maturity, why do you think these are breaking down more frequently?
It is unfortunate. One of the things is that we now know that the brain developed all the way till 24, 25, and to actually take on a lifelong commitment between the age of 20 to 24 and hoping that it will last, it's a very risky business. Just like we won't give a mortgage to someone in their 20s. It's very hard to expect them to live up to it. On that note, one of the things is that at that time in a person's life, you know, being young and passionate, you just found the love of your life. It's unparalleled in any time in human lifespan. The difficulty is, of course, transiting from a young couple into an old marriage couple. So, like one of my clients woke up one morning and said, I woke up and thought to myself, my God, what am I doing with this man? And she was 32 then. So the difficulty with young couples, of course, they had the sweet young puppy love, you met each other, you had a great courtship. How do we then negotiate the following parts of life? You know, growing old together, buying HDB, starting a family, things like cancer, death, you know, different things that come along the way. Lots of road bumps.
But it does seem that people are more or were more committed in the previous generation. Is there any actual truth to that?
I think once again it's around publicity and media. You know, maybe it's because that we didn't know there were couples who were just sort of quietly separated or sleeping in different rooms, whereas now it's widely discussed, you know, wider the discussion, so it's helpful.
Right, let's talk about how marriage preparation courses actually help a marriage. How effective are they?
That is a good question. I am thankful that the MSF has put in some effort to actually say, oh, let's look at the numbers, let's find out what's happening on the ground. Bad marriages is bad for everyone. It's not good for the couple, it's not good for the family, it's not good for the society. Having said that, I wonder if you can actually force people to go for courses. I mean, the worst is, of course, you guys want to get married and you force people to go on a course to be lectured, which of course makes preparation courses tricky. There will be some generic clauses, areas that needs to be covered, which will be very helpful. Things like how you live together, managing conflict. But what about deeper things? Perhaps it's time for us to go into more individualized type of courses, more intimate, more unique to the individual, for example. That might be more helpful.
At the same time, you do see that couples are more open to the idea of marriage counselling as well, don't you?
Yes. They have come. One of the things is, of course, they come in as almost as a preemptive measure, as in, we can foresee that we have a bumpy ride ahead. For example, we're starting a new family. There are some separation or some death in the family, for example. Or changing jobs, moving houses. Those are all stressful situations in one person's life.
So despite more people being open to marriage counselling, we are still seeing a rising trend of divorce. Why do you think this counselling hasn't actually reversed that trend?
I wonder if it's fair to say it hasn't reversed the trend. It is a tall order to ask. I mean, as a counsellor and a psychologist myself, we're doing our best, but we see one couple at a time.
Yeah.
They don't come in droves. So, and I suppose it's unfortunate in Asia that the notion of seeking help is still pretty hush-hush. It's a very discreet kind of process. People are not exactly upfront about, seeking help. A lot of times couples come into the clinic and they're 1 foot into the divorce lawyer's office, and it's frankly too late.
And there is that social stigma as well, isn't
Of course.
it? Well, thanks, Dr. Lee, for coming into our studios to share with us your perspectives. I've been speaking to Dr. Lee Kam Chuan, psychologist and marriage counsellor. Moving on, overextended borrowers are getting more time to cut their debt. New rules on unsecured credit will be gradually phased in over a period of 4 years. Unsecured credit refers to borrowing that is not backed by any collateral. The rules were first announced in September 2013. They restrict financial institutions from granting further unsecured credit or new credit cards to anyone with debt that exceeds their annual income for 3 consecutive months.